Ladies and gentlemen, it all comes down to this. Welcome to the final match of the Crush Card Cup. 512 players, and we are left with just two. We have Simon in the blue on Adamancipator going up against Francesco in the red playing Combo Eldlich. I just want to thank everyone who helped make this tournament happen. The players, we have our sponsors, Ultimate Guard, Project CCG, as well as We Play Games for putting up some incredible prizing for a free tournament nonetheless, the biggest during COVID-19. We also have Distant Coder, Research Judge 1245, who you can see in the bottom left, who was spectating to make sure this went well. He was the head judge throughout this entire event, who had plenty of headaches throughout. And most importantly, we have Mr. MBT Yu-Gi-Oh! Joseph Rothschild himself for being by my side throughout the entirety of this colossal clusterfuck of a tournament. Joseph, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you getting yourself demonetized for my sake.
You know, it's not the first time. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like Simon is kicking things off by winning the die roll, so that means things are definitely going to be in his favor for this match. Has Simon won almost every die roll in Top Cut that we've commentated?
When you're playing Adamancipator, that's kind of the most important part of the game, and the second most important part is finding exactly unexpected die in Angel Trumpeter, which I think we have seen Simon deploy for the last 5 games in a row.
To be fair, it's been part of the reason he's seen so much success, right? It's a tuner, it's a level 4, it's an earth. What really more could you ask for in an extender for this deck? But here we go. We fired off an analyzer, getting a copy of Doki Doki. We're going to go into Gallic Granite here, see if that prompts any response from Francesco here. Gallic Granite can get us into a myriad of different cards, most notably, probably a little card known as Block Dragon, which I definitely foresee getting banned on this upcoming ban list in the next couple weeks. What do you think, Joseph?
I don't think it'll be banned. I think they're going to do something like limit it until there's paper events again. But this card, regardless, is not long for the world. And speaking of cards that are extremely suspect, next comes Crystron Halqifibrax and Mecha Phantom Beast O-Lion, going into the Link Cross combo that we all know, love, and loathe to play against.
I mean, it is just astounding how powerful these cards truly are, and you kind of wonder if you're thinking, okay, which of these cards should be banned on the next upcoming ban list while Simon summons these tokens off of Link Cross here. Like, you can make an argument for each one of them, right? Block Dragon, right. Halqifibrax, Link Cross, O-Lion even to a degree could even have an argument in itself, but I think that's skirting the problem. Here comes Martial Metal Marcher. Now, I still love that this card exists and is actually relevant for these decks.
Oh, yeah. In Adamancipator specifically, it does double duty. Normally, what you're doing is using Martial Metal to get back the O-Lion to enable Savage Dragon setups, but it can actually get any tuner. So any of the Adamancipator monsters are a reasonable target, which can turn into any level synchro you need. It plus a token also makes Herald of the Arclight, so hand traps will be off for the remainder of the turn.
Yeah, this is one of the things that makes this deck just so brutal to play against, is that as soon as that Arclight hits the field, everything is turned off unless you have hand traps like in multiples, and that's so difficult to play through. Here we're going to see him go into a Link Spider using off that other token that he had, and now we're going to go ahead and take both of those, go into a Union Carrier, and we're going to just go and hard summon this Block Dragon that we added to our hand via the Gallant Granite, and we are just going to be off. This is going to be pretty much textbook for what we've seen Simon doing for the past several feature matches now, and it's really no surprise that he's made it all the way to the finals as such.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Without even activating the effect of Seeker, you can easily go into Savage Dragon and then activate the effect of Union Carrier. From there, you can lock your opponent out of the extra deck and continue to put up negates. Tackle Crusader, the find off of Seeker, and wow, this card has shown up fantastically over the course of the top 8.
Yeah, I definitely think that if I do an interview with Simon, regardless of the outcome of this match after the fact, I think I definitely want to pick his brain about Tackle Crusader specifically. That card has come up in so many instances in the feature matches we've shown him in, and wow, just what a card, what a tech we haven't really seen since like Necros format, right? To out Jin of all things. But here comes the Raptite now. Raptite's going to fire off, get a copy of this Researcher. We're going to take both the Raptite and the Researcher now to make a Borreload Savage Dragon. That's just going to give us even more resilience to this board, more negations. I mean, look at this. How do you beat this?
It's really frustrating because this board in particular resists Dark Ruler no more. You get to fire Abyss Dweller in the draw phase. You're going to have a domain lock regardless, so your opponent is going to have to either have the Eldlich in hand or they're going to have to play without access to their extra deck, and that is enough. Francesco scooping it up in the face of that board.
So we're going to see Disencoder go in here, do a deck check for both players just to make sure they are cooperating with their deck list that they submitted for the event. But now Francesco gets a turn here. Obviously, Combo Eldlich. We haven't really talked about this very much, but I mean, this is just the newest take on Eldlich, incorporations of card like Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon, being able to go into some absurd boards. The combos even continue to keep evolving, even as this tournament has been progressing. These players had to lock their deck lists about a week or two ago now, but we're now seeing combos where this deck can go into stuff like True King of All Calamities and draw 2 in addition to that. Like, are you kidding?
At this point in Combo Eldlich's lifespan, people had already figured out that Crocodon was going to be a critical Lichpin part of said combos. It's a way to draw between 3 and 4 cards over the course of a setup turn and then blank your opponent. If there is a Jet Synchron in the hand, I think we might see that line.
All right, so Cursed Eldland going to start off here for Francesco, getting a Golden Lord. There's a Jet Synchron. Yep, Jet Synchron is exactly what you want to see. Here we're going to go into Link Karibo, and this effectively represents, at the very minimum, with no interruptions, what? Savage Dragon and Arclight, so we have 2 negations at the very least, but the ceiling is just immeasurable by where Francesco could take this. It's going to be rough for Simon if he has no interruption here.
Obviously, a lot relies on the extra deck. You know, what's in there is more important than almost anything else, but getting the 0/0/1 off of the Halqifibrax seems to telegraph that they're on the all-in combo variant. They're going to go into Auroradon here, summon 3 tokens, and here's an interaction you have probably seen all format. 0/0/1 can be special summoned from the graveyard because 3 machines made it onto the field at the same time.
But he had the Nibiru! Oh, and this is what is just so crushing about when you don't win that die roll game 1, is that when you go into game 2 playing a combo deck, that your opponent has the opportunity to side in these equalizers and these cards to slow you down, like Nibiru. And it's funny, you wouldn't necessarily think to side Nibiru in against Eldlich, and that just seems so counterintuitive, but the combo that this deck is able to perform time and time again is so just crippling that it warrants playing a card like Nibiru, because otherwise you're not going to have very many outs to deal with it.
It's so frustrating that the trap card deck you have to play Nibiru to counter. Like, from this position, we can easily send this Cursed Eldland to the graveyard to bring back the Eldlich, set 3, and then activate the effect of whatever we send from the Eldland in the end phase, going into potentially 4 pieces of interaction through something that stopped our game-winning combo.
And that's the thing, right? I think that's part of the reason why this deck is so resilient, because even if the combo half of the deck gets stopped, you're still playing Eldlich. You're still playing a control deck, and control decks are usually favored in a lot of these matchups because if you can get established, but not if you're just setting 1 and resolving a Wakedo in end phase just for a copy of Scarlet, presumably. Only 1 potential piece of interaction in the back row, and then maybe a couple hand traps in hand, because this deck can play quite a handful. That is not the opening you want to see if you're Francesco here.
Yeah, and a lot of the reason Crocodon has become so popular is you can guarantee this never happens. You can ensure you will always have the ability to out your opponent's board, but Anti-Spell Fragrance, the unknown set, a fantastic blowout against this deck that is trying to resolve must-wins like Dark Ruler No More against combo decks, and Adamancipator Signs in every matchup.
Now, to be fair, I think if you look at like an overall standardized Adamancipator deck list, their spell count isn't extraordinarily high, right? They're a very monster-dense deck because they want to be hitting monsters off of their excavations of the Adamancipator cards. So while this Anti-Spell Fragrance may not seem as good as it might against like other decks, for instance, there are still some key cards that this card can stop in particular. So you have like Adamancipator Signs, the Monster Reborn in archetype, which is already absurd enough. There's just so many different things, especially going to games 2 and 3 as well. You don't know what else your opponent sided, and there's some very powerful equalizers in the side deck too that we could potentially see anti-spell blocking off.
Yeah, for example, you would expect as the Eldlich pilot that your opponent is playing something like, I don't know, Cosmic Cyclone out of the board, and forcing the activation of that early by activating Anti-Spell Fragrance is a great way to ensure that your actual negation is unthreatened.
So here we had a Seeker resolve, and that's going to get a copy of Quackimiro Guardian to the field, and since Seeker is a tuner and Nibiru is not, we can link both of those off for a Crystron Halqifibrax. That's going to get met with Effect Veiler, though, but that will be responded to by the Quackimiro Guardian, ensuring that the Halqifibrax will resolve. I mean, it's just so
Sometimes you hit it! I mean, sometimes you hit it!
So Linkross is going to hit the field now. That's going to summon, or excuse me, the Halqifibrax summon the O-line. Linkross is going to be used to be linked off of the Halqifibrax. We're going to see how many tokens that Simon is going to summon here. Looks like he's just going to go for one. We're going to sync off that and the O-Lion for a Martial Metal Marcher. We can get Seeker back. We're also going to get our O-Lion token. We're going to link that off into a copy of Link Spider, and Simon is just going full steam ahead at this point.
So it's got to be pretty much exactly Nibiru in the hand for the Eldlich player. Otherwise, the last remaining set card is a known quantity, and Simon can easily clean up through a card that doesn't interact with their game state at all.
Now, to be fair, at the very least, at least Francesco does have a Scarlet in the grave, so Simon will have to find a way to navigate around that. Dark Ruler no more in the hand, funny enough.
Against the trap deck!
We're going to see Cerberus go ahead and resolve here and actually draw a card for Simon. That's something you don't typically see in this deck. Cerberus pretty much just being used for the fact that it is an Earth Link 2, just so you can easily get cards in the graveyard to fuel your Block Dragon plays. But now Block Dragon's going to be triggered, and we're going to get a ton of cards to our hand. Going to banish this Link Spider for a Gigante, special summon this Researcher, and we're going to see if we hit. There's a Tackle Crusader. We got there.
That's pretty good. This potentially unlocks the spells that could be equalizing this game state, but importantly, Cerberus there is used not necessarily to get rid of the token that would otherwise win the game, more importantly, to chain block the Block Dragon into the face of a potential Ash Blossom. From here, we can go into a Raptite and summon anything off the top of the deck. We're going to activate Tackle Crusader's effect to get the Eldlich face down, and then start firing these summons.
I think that's one of the cool interactions with Tackle Crusader against Eldlich specifically. It doesn't matter against this particular board state, but if, for instance, Francesco did have, let's say, a Waquero or a Conquistador in the back row, being able to flip that Golden Lord face down would essentially deny them from being able to use any of those cards, or at least force their activations preemptively because of the fact that the Golden Lord would no longer be face up. And I think that's just, again, one of those very small things that Tackle Crusader has helped give Simon a slight edge in some of these matchups here. Here comes Dragite, and when you see Dragite, it is not looking too good for you.
So the negate is online. All we got to do is reveal some rocks off the top, and this game honestly might be over. From here, we can go into Savage. We've got more than enough material on board to perform some sort of lethal combo. Things are looking extremely good from Simon's perspective. Let's see the mills.
Yep, firing off the Dragite here. There's one. Two? Okay, so we got two rocks, so that means we get to bounce two cards back to the hand. We're going to get rid of the Set Spell and Trap as well as the Golden Lord,
which is
perfectly
probably
fine.
Good enough.
Right, I mean, this could represent lethal damage here if we just do a couple more plays. I mean, we already have, what, 3,046, 5,600 just in what's currently on field in attack position.
Notably, though, no negate yet. It's got to be Nibiru here or lose.
Right, and it looks like that's going to be fine, and this will be more than lethal. Is Simon just going to 2-0 his way to a victory in the Crush Card Cup? And it looks like it. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Simon of Frozen Card Gaming, your Crush Card Cup champion, definitively with Adamancipator. I mean, Joseph, this really isn't much of a surprise.
Certainly not a surprise insofar as it was going to be Adamancipator or Eldlich, but the way that Eldlich has just become this almost unstoppable force in terms of combo setups and negation plays, it is a little satisfying to see it lose to the face of the heads-up combo deck.
Can we also just discuss that Simon had Red Reboot in hand and didn't even have to use it?
All D's.
Yeah, he just had everything, didn't he? So, guys, I just want to thank each and every one of you for spending the time and watching the Crush Card Cup. This was an absolute blast. Joseph, thank you once again. And who knows? Maybe we'll have to do this again. We'll have to see.